Conference will now be recorded.
Okay, first of all, I want to thank Leah Carmi for sponsoring in honor of Nathan, her grandson's wonderful grandson's bar mitzvah. And I didn't realize that was your sister and her husband I was sitting at the table. Are they still here or they went back already? Nice. Uh huh. Very nice. Good. It was really a pleasure meeting them. And also a thank you to Cher Bransky, who also sponsored in memory of her father, Zichrono Livracha. May his neshama have an aliyah, and memory be a blessing. Irv Bransky. I don't remember. Okay. So an eye for an eye is something that has very often been distorted, meaning we know, of course, that it means mammon, it means monetary compensation. But the Torah says ayin tachat ayin, which literally means an eye in place of an eye. And this is often distorted by people who want to say, oh, so you see, the Old Testament, right, is very, very brutal and very harsh. And then the New Testament is filled with love and all right, and or the rabbis tried to tone it down a little bit to make it a little more palatable, a little bit more acceptable, and that is how it is often misunderstood and misrepresented. Okay, now rabbinical literature is always understood that the Torah was saying it means an eye's worth for an eye. Okay, and we're going to show how this is clear from the Torah, and a thank you to Rabbi Gil's student, from whose posting I've drawn a lot of this material. And he says as follows, right? When viewing anything in the Torah, you have to look at its context, right? Kathy, we discuss this often, right? You know, the missionaries and the Jews for Jesus, and the Messianic Judaism in general is filled with what Rabbi Tuvia Singer calls helicopter. What's it? Say it again. That's it. Helicopter hermeneutics. Right? Now that's fancy words to describe that when a helicopter lands, it lands on one space and everything around it just gets blown away by the whir of the propellers on top. Right? And that they'll take, right, missionaries, Messianic Judaism, Jews for Jesus, they'll take a pasuk, a verse, and ignore the context. It says in Isaiah 52:6. How about 52:5? 52:4? How about 52:7? 52:8? How about the last 20 chapters before that, where the Jewish people are referred to as B'ni, my son? Right? So first thing we need to take into account is the context. Another thing we need to look at is the exact language. And let's see where else the Torah uses this term and what does it mean in those places. And then we also have to apply logic. Okay? So let us begin. And of course, this is in our parsha of Mishpatim, of judgments. And let's get the context. So we're in Shmot 21:18-25. Verse 18. If two parties are quarreling, fighting, and one guy hits the other with a stone, or with his fist, would you say this is talking about deliberate or accidental? No. This is deliberate. Two guys are fighting, and one hits the other with a stone or with his fist. Velo yamut, and he doesn't die. If the guy dies, then we have a capital case over here. But he doesn't. V'nafal mishkav. Rather, he fell into his bed. Im yakum. If, verse 19, if he will be able to get up, v'holech b'chutz, and walk around outside, al mishanto, even with a support, so he's not dying, v'nika hamakeh, then the one who beat him will be acquitted from any capital punishment. However, rak shivto yitain, but any shevet, workman's compensation, loss of wages, he will need to give. V'rapo yirapeh, and also the medical bills. He will be his responsibility for healing him, for covering the medical costs. Now, there actually are 5 damages or 5 damage payments that a person must pay. This pasuk is listing 2 of them. We'll soon see other ones. But the other 3 are nezek, the actual damage, tsar, the pain, ripui and shevet we mentioned, and boshet, humiliation, the embarrassment. Those are 5 payments that a person must give or that must be assessed if one accosts another person. Okay, we're going to skip verses 20 and 21 because that talks about damaging an eved, a slave. Okay, not relevant to our topic. Next, 22. V'chi yinatzu anashim. 2 guys are fighting. V'nagfu isha hara. 2 guys are fighting, and they ended up hitting an isha hara, a pregnant woman. V'yatsu yiladeha, and she loses her kids. She loses the baby. V'lo yiyeh ason, but her own life was not taken. Anosh ye'anesh, he will be punished. Kasher yashit alav bal ha'isha, according to the claim that will be made by this woman's husband, v'natan biflilim, and that amount will be given biflilim, right, through the judges. We'll have a court case to determine the damages, the value, and that's what he will need to pay. Is this case where this woman got hit, was this deliberate or was this accidental? Accidental. Okay. So we have verses 18, 19, where it's deliberate. And what is the punishment for that? What is the punishment for that? What is damages? He pays damages, right? That was verse 19, right? Paying for the idleness and the cure, right? So when it was an accidental, when it was a deliberate damage done to someone, there is payment. Now we're talking about an accidental damage done. V'natan biflilim. He will give, will have to give according to the judges. V'im ason yihiyeh, but if there will be ason, remember, we said lo ason was there would not be a loss of life. The woman was not killed. She lost her babies. Then we spoke about as the person will claim to the court and the judges will determine. Im ason yihiyeh, if she will die, that's a different story. V'natata nefesh tachat nafesh. Then the wording is life for life. And there is a debate in this case, right? Do we say, if I meant to kill this person and that person got killed, is there capital punishment for it or not? So there's a debate in the Gemara if the woman did die, will he forfeit his life for that? Is there capital punishment? He killed someone accidentally, but he was going for someone else and happened to get her. right? Or is that a monetary payment?
He certainly did not exercise due caution.
Correct. He certainly did not.
Do they take into consideration the life of the baby who might take care of their parents for a life?
Okay.
I'm just was
Okay.
wondering about
Yes.
that.
So that's an interesting point. And when we discuss, we've had a lunch and learn, we could revisit it at some point. When we discuss abortion according to Jewish law, so this is one of the main sources where we see that taking the life of a baby is not considered murder. Not that it is something that we take lightly, that we disregard, but remember, we said over there back in verse 22, right? If she miscarriages, right, but no other damage ensues, meaning she's not killed, then it's a monetary payment.
Not a capital crime.
What
Right.
about the term of the pregnancy?
I'm sorry?
What about the term of the pregnancy? If it's 3 months, maybe it's not a human being, but if it's 7 months,
Even so, it's not considered by halacha. It's not, again, we are not easygoing when it comes to allowing an abortion, right? If many factors go in, but it's not considered a fully living person until he enters avir ha'olam, the air of the world, until he exits the birth canal, and he or she, the baby, exits the birth canal and enters the world. Okay? Now, and then we have our psukim. Ayin tachat ayin. Shein tachat shein. An eye for an eye. A tooth for a tooth. A hand for a hand. Regel tachat regel. A leg for a leg. Kviya tachat kviya. Right? A wound for a wound. A bruise. Burn for a burn. Petza tachat patza. Chabura tachat chabura. Wound for wound, bruise for bruise. Now, when we look at the context, it actually makes no sense whatsoever to say that verse 18, 19, when it is deliberate, what happens? Monetary payment. But when it's accidental, if he knocked out her eye, what's going to happen now? He's going to lose his eye. It makes no sense at all from the context to say that when it is deliberate, it's a monetary payment. When it is accidental, this person is going to get maimed. Right? Do we hear that? Yes. So the context shows us that it can't be that we're going to take out this person's eye, right? Again, when it's deliberate, right? I went to get this guy. Oh, I'm going to get a bill in the mail. When it is accidental, of course it has to be monetary payment. Are we clear on that? Does that make sense? Perfect sense to everyone?
Logically, but I think verse 18, the Posech, and 19, they're kind of talking about general injury, musculoskeletal, but specific organs.
Well, 1 second. Look at 23, 24. 24. Eye for eye, tooth for tooth, hand for hand, foot for foot, burn for burn, wound for wound, bruise for bruise. That sounds pretty encompassing, doesn't it? Meaning, if you're going to say that eye for eye means we knock out his eye, then bruise for bruise means what?
You would give a bruise.
Give him the bruise, right? So I'm not sure, Janet, what in verse 18, 19 is not included in eye, tooth, hand, foot, burn, wound, bruise. Right? It will certainly include the skeletal that you mentioned. L'chaim, Cheryl. Cheryl, l'chaim. Thank you.
there is a monetary damage for either deliberate or non-deliberate.
What I'm saying is, if the Torah mandates monetary for deliberate,
That's all the punishment for deliberate?
what else do you want the guy to do?
I don't know. Of course, if he goes to prison, he won't be able to pay. So
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yes. We'll come to, but hold that. We can come back to that towards the end. So again, it's very clear if deliberate is if deliberate harm to someone, then it's a monetary payment that needs to be given. Then certainly when it says in the case of an accidental, it of course must mean a monetary payment. But you might ask, this is where you were going, Janet. You might ask, so again, on the source sheet there, 1819 intentional damage, monetary punishment. Verse 2021, we left that out, damage to slaves, right? Also monetary payment, by the way. 20 to 25, accidental damage. What is the punishment? It makes no sense to say the punishment will be a physical maiming of that person when it's accidental. But when he did it deliberately, then it's just a payment. Yes.
In today's courts, they seem to go to disabilities, like they were out of their mind, or they are declared insane, or they are on drugs. How would that be viewed by the Torah? I'm just asking the
Okay,
question.
so in the Torah, we do have a concept of a shota, a person who's mentally incompetent, right? And he would not be fully, he's considered like a minor in terms of das, in terms of intellectual understanding, and would not be responsible, as is a minor not fully responsible. I don't think we would go so well for the, he was fine until then, temporary insanity, and now he's back at work and everything is fine. Okay, but yes.
One quick question. Where it says if two men are fighting and the woman and hit a pregnant woman and she doesn't die, it's a monetary punishment, right? And it says
Right. One could say he'll be punished, right? And the judges will determine, right? Maybe one could argue, and they'll say an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth, meaning, all right, except for the word v'natan. But we'll see. Where do you want to go with this, Steve?
Because then it says the ima son, so the im is saying in contradistinction, right? So it sounds
if she dies,
right, but it sounds to me like the im is implying this is qualitatively different.
Yeah.
So that it's worse. It's worse than monetary.
If she dies.
Yeah.
Okay, so again, there's a machloket about that, right? Certainly, nefesh tachat nefesh is making it more severe, right? There's a machloket, I don't want to get into that now, is that literally the person is held accountable for manslaughter, even though he tried, right? Or will he have to give the value of his own self or the value of that person?
But I'm just curious if there's an opinion that.
How does that opinion deal with the im?
Well, that's one. But then, if you're going to go nefesh tachat nefesh is to be taken literally according to some opinion, and it says ayin tachat ayin right after that, so it sounds like under some circumstances there is this barbaric ayin tachat.
Okay, except that from the context, if the barbaric ayin tachat ayin, eye for an eye, doesn't apply when it's deliberate, right? Then it seems very strange. It would seem inconceivable to say that's what it means when it is accidental. Fair enough. Yes.
So why is it there?
Okay. So, but it says ayin tachat ayin. So why is it there? So first of all, next thing we need to look at is the language. Tachat. What does tachat mean? In place of. In place of. Well, let's see where else the Torah uses the word tachat. Okay? So as Leah is asking, right? But it says ayin tachat ayin, right? Which we always interpret an eye for an eye, right? Well, let's see how the Torah uses the word tachat. Let's go to the next source, which is Bereshit 44:33. This is when the brothers had come back the second time to Egypt to get food from this crazy viceroy, unbeknownst to them, who actually was Yosef. And finally, they come back the second time. They bring Binyamin as he had demanded, and they're on their way home. left the confines of Egypt, they breathe a sigh of relief when suddenly there are these horses, camels, whatever it is, chasing after them. Why have you repaid our master with bad in place of the good? Right? Why have you stolen his goblet? Heaven forbid. Right? Don't right. Whoever, right, did right. If that happened, we all should, right? They check, and lo and behold, they find it where? In the bags of Binyamin. What was Yosef thinking? Yosef was thinking, let me bring them back and make sure Binyamin is going to be safe. I know how they had this malice towards me as I was the favored son of their father, Jacob. And since then, I'm gone. Rachel has died. All that's left of Rachel is Binyamin. I'm concerned that Father Yaakov is again showing favoritism, and maybe they'll take this opportunity to harm Binyamin as they harmed me. He wanted Binyamin back for safekeeping. Yehuda goes forward and they're all brought back. Yehuda goes forward to advocate on behalf of Binyamin. And he says, right, Father's life is hinging on this young boy returning. If this young boy doesn't come back, our father will die. Therefore, Va'ata, and now, verse 33, Yeshev na, please, let Avdecha, your servant, remain. Tachat Hana'ar, in the place of the Nar. Eved Ladoni, I will remain in the place of the lad as a servant to my master, to you, Viceroy of Egypt. V'hana'ar Ya'al im Echav. And the child will go back with his brothers back home to his father. So what does Tachat mean over here in this case? Right? I will be in his place, meaning you, Viceroy of Egypt. We'll call him Yosef. He didn't yet know it was Yosef. You, Yosef, have claims to this child as a slave. I want to take away that slave of yours. I will go in place of that slave. I'm not going to pledge to be a slave somewhere else. I'm going to be in place of that slave. Similarly, we have in Kings 1:30. This is Shimshon. I have the wrong one here. Okay, this is also a good one. Then I'll tell you the other one. Ki kasher nishbati lach ba Elokei Yisroel. Kings 1, the end of the first chapter. This is when Adoniyahu, King David HaMelech, King David, is very old. And at that point, right, he is confined to a room in his house. Adoniyahu, one of his sons, decides, I'm next in line. So Natan HaNavi goes and Bathsheba go to tell David, did you not say that Shlomo would be in your place? Because now Adoniyahu is proclaiming himself as the king. And David says, Ki kasher nishbati lach, as I swore to you, by Elokei Yisrael Emor, in the name of the God of Israel, saying, Ki Shlomo b'nech yimloch acharai, Shlomo your son, he will be the king after me. V'hu yeshev al kisi tachtai, and he will sit on my throne, tachtai, meaning in my place. So when I am no longer able to sit on the throne, when the throne is empty, he will fill the place of that throne. Okay? The other example that I thought I included, but I did not, right, is by Shimshon, Samson, in the book of Judges. So he the Plishtim had taken away the wife that had been given to him, and he responded that he burned down their fields. And the other Jews came to him and saying, like, why are you provoking these people who have control over us, right? And he said, right, what they did, I did that in place of that, right? So again, right, it was, well, let's stick with these two, okay? So what do we see tachat means? Tachat is that something is missing. Yosef, right, you will be missing Binyamin as your slave. I will come and I will fill in that which is missing. David is saying, when I am no longer able to serve as the king, the throne has been vacated. Shlomo is the one who will fill that place. That's what tachat means in the Torah, in Tanakh, in the place of. Okay? So in that context now, in that language, let's say, the context was the other verses. In that language, ayin, tachat ayin. If you knocked out an eye, what must you do? You must replace. You must fill that gap that you have caused. How can you fill it? Well, knocking out his eye is not going to fill anything or accomplish anything. And that's not what tachat means.
That's why I asked about the child's life being able to provide later on.
Yeah,
How
yes.
can you judge that?
Yes. So yes, it's very hard to judge that. You're right, right? So what it must mean is that you must replace that eye, right? How do you replace that eye? Well, paying the cost, the value of that which was taken away, right? Now in today's world, right, you'd have to replace it, right? Right? You know, the damages would include the cost of another eyeball there. Obviously, it's not going to be working, right? But you'd have to fill the hole that you created. If you can't, now with a king, we could fill the hole, have a new king. By Yosef, we could fill the hole. There is a new slave. Where we can't fill the hole, so there one would need to fill the hole in a financial, monetary manner by paying the damages that were caused.
Actually, that
Just
was
1 second, Cheryl.
So it's a substitution.
Correct. It's substituting for it. It's never been, right?
No, it's not the same.
Right? He stole the goblet, so therefore you can steal my goblet. That wasn't a conversation. I will be there to fill the void that is being created, if you will acquiesce.
I have a question. Up till halacha was actually created already in this, I mean,
The Torah creates the halacha.
the Torah. I mean, I'm losing words. Okay, there is a law, there is a sentence in Torah, but there are a lot of interpretations and a lot of nuances to that one. Eye for an eye. It's not just eye for an eye. It's the loss of damage. It's physical and emotional, whatever it is. But it's not written in Torah in all the details.
Correct.
Halacha writes it in details.
Well,
But before halacha was.
So there is no before halacha, meaning our understanding is along with the Torah was the oral teaching that was given to Moshe. And from the get-go, ayin tachat ayin clearly meant monetary restitution. Always, right? And I'm saying, and we see that from the context, we see that from the language, the term that was used. And Janet, yeah?
actually it would imply that someone would have to provide a guide for someone who lost eyes.
Okay.
To shepherd them along.
So,
Now,
okay,
they
fair
have to
enough.
provide guide
Fair
dogs.
enough. That would be included in the damages that were caused. The damage that he
'Cause
needs.
that's the right.
Fair
that's
enough.
The appropriate. I mean,
Yes.
as close of substitution as possible.
Right. Fair enough. And that's monetary. That's monetary,
Wages,
right?
uses-
If I say, I want this guy to be your guide, I'm going to say, listen, pay me for a guide. I'll decide who I want to have a guide, right? You're not going to decide that for me. You know, the Gemara talks about, we said before, V'rapoyi rapeh, that he has to heal him. So if he says, I'm a doctor. I'm not going to pay your medical bills. I'll take care of it. And to that, the Gemara says he can respond, you've taken care of enough already. Thank you very much. You're not the doctor I want to go to. Or if he says, I got a doctor who'll do it for free. The Gemara says the doctor does it for nothing, is worth nothing. Right? That's what the Gemara says. Right? Right? The Maseh b'magen shavi. Hu shaveh klum. Right? Okay. Yes. So again, we see in terms of the context, and we see in terms of the language. Let's go a little further in the language, because we have a similar term in Vayikra. Okay? V'ish ki yakeh kol nefesh adam. If a person smites another human being, mot yumat, death. Umake nefesh behema. If he hits an animal, kills an animal, yishalmena, he will need to pay nefesh tachat nefesh, right? Obviously, he's not going to get, now here, no one's going to say that, right, he'll get killed, right? Yishalmena, it says. So nefesh tachat nefesh means, again, that context, tachat means, right, you have to pay a nefesh in the place of that nefesh, the value. I don't get sidetracked on that, Steve. The ish ki yitain mum ba'amito, but if a person maims another person, kasher asa kain ye'aseh lo. This sounds very much like literal, right? What was done shall be done in return. Shever tachat shever, ayin tachat ayin, shein tachat shein, fracture for fracture, eye for eye, tooth for tooth. Kasher yitain mum ba'amito, kain yinatain bo, right? As he inflicted an injury, kain yinatain bo. Okay, so where do we have the term yinatain? Yitain, right? It means to give, right? So if you look up where we began, I highlighted the second line there. Rak shivto yitain v'rapo yirapeh. The Torah uses the word yitain, giving, when we're talking about monetary payment. Not gzeira shava. That's how the word is used. We don't make our own gzeira shavas.
No, I'm asking
Yeah.
if it was a Masorah that the
No. No, but that's the definition of the word. You know, a gzeira shava will take halacha. Gzeira shava is when we have the same word in two places that creates a halachic pipeline. And I learn a law that applies to that over to this case, and a law that applies over here over to that case. That's a gzeira shava. Here, we're just defining the word. We're not learning any laws, gzeira shava, from one to the other, right? Now, kain ye'aseh lo, right? So you might want to say, oh, ye'aseh lo, kain ye'aseh means you have to do to him exactly. Oh, here's the Samson. Okay, turn the page over, my friends. Right, Shoftim 15:11. Vayerdu shloshet alafim ish mi Yehuda. 3,000 Judahites came down. El Seif Hasel, to the cave of the rock of Etam, and where Shimshon was. Vayomer, they said to Samson, Halo yadata, why are you stirring things up? Why are you causing problems over here? Don't you know, ki moshlim banu plishtim, the Philistines are ruling over us. Mazot asita lanu. What have you done to us? Vayomer lahem, and he said to them, kasher asu li kain asiti lahem. As they did to me, so I did to them. Just as an aside, Shimshon was acting, he was one of the Shoftim. He was one of the judges of Israel. He was acting as a renegade in order that the rest of the Jewish people would not be held responsible for his antics, his heroics. He's out of control. He's not representing us. Whatever the case is, over here, so they took back the wife that had been given to him. So what did he do? He burned down their fields. As they did to me, I did to them. He didn't take away their wives. They took away his wife. He didn't take away their wives. What did he do? He damaged them. So we see that even the term Kain Ya'aseh does not need to mean the exact thing that was done, right? But, right, there are repercussions of one's actions. You do, that will be done to you. They took his wife, their fields got burned. He poked out his eye. There are repercussions that now need to be given back. Logically, let's look at Vayikra 24:22. Mishpat echad yeh lachem. There needs to be one standard. Keger, ke'ezrach yeh. For a stranger and for a citizen alike. Ki ani Hashem Elokechem. Because I am Hashem, your God. The Torah demands equal treatment for all of these assailants, right? In other words, this is in Vayikra 24, right after we spoke about all the damaging. That's where this is coming. 24:22, before we got to 24:20. Okay? So at the end of that, right, we're talking about there's got to be one judgment for all. Okay? So if that's going to be the case, if the Torah meant to take it literally, right? So let's say a blind man blinds someone else.
Deliberately or not,
Whatever, right?
he still has to pay damage.
Yes, but I'm saying if it was literal, so we don't have one mishpat for everyone, right? This guy's blind, so what are we gonna do for him? How is that mishpat echad? How do we have?
Money.
If it's money, then it could be uniform. It's the same judgment for everyone. The damage that you cause, you need to pay. But if it were mistakenly to be understood to be literal, then it's not mishpat echad. It's not one judgment. This guy's got great eyesight. This guy's got very weak eyesight. This guy is blind, right? Now, right, and keep in mind, right, if you're going to, right, you broke his arm, we're going to break your arm, right? Do we know, is it going to be the same? Right. Is that, right? One person you break, right, who knows what that can lead to, right? It might end up leading to death, right? You think about it, right? Well, if they're doing these, what we would consider to be primitive surgeries, right? At that point, right? Infections, right? Who knows what can happen, right? How can they possibly, right? How can they possibly do this to that person as justice, as judgment, as fair, equitable, precise judgment if it's not, if they can never determine that? They can never get it exactly right. So we see, from the context, it makes no sense that the Torah would legislate monetary payment for a deliberate damage and losing one's eye for accidental. We see tachat does not mean this for that. It means replacing the void that has been created. We see also that the Torah demands that it be just equally just in all cases. And there's no way to make it equally just in all cases if we're going to be doing it physically. So why does the Torah write it in such a way? So why did it write it in such a way that it is misleading? Granted, when we attend Lunch and Learn and we see clearly the Torah is saying monetary, but nevertheless, at a glance, it certainly is misleading. So why does the Torah write it in such a way? So I believe Rambam, what you have to realize is what really should happen to you is this. It can't be enforced, it can't be applied, but, let's say I'm a very wealthy guy and I have an intense dislike for Bob. So I say, you know what? I'm going to send some of my boys to beat the living daylights out of Bob. And I'll pay any of the damage. Whatever the Beit Din says I got to pay, I'll pay. So why not? Why not? I'm not doing anything wrong. He'll get fully compensated. He'll get fully compensated. No. Ayin tachat ayin. This is almost like taking a life. You're taking away a part of a person's life, right? And therefore you have to understand the severity of this. Not to be taken lightly. The Seforno, right? We have that on the source sheet. Ayin tachat ayin, an eye for an eye. Kach haya ra'ui. No, the very last one. Right? Ayin Seforno, bold letter there. Ayin tachat ayin. Kach haya ra'ui. This is what ought to be. Kafi hadin hagamor. According to strong, full justice. Shehi mida keneged mida. We view it, right? We view the world as divine reciprocity, a measure for a measure. This is what should be. Uba Kabbalah, however, that which we have received, receiving means passed down, oral teaching from Moses on Sinai, Shishalei Mamon. That, what does it mean in this context? Money, monetary restitution. V'nei chesron hash'aratenu, because it is impossible. Chesron, we're lacking in our ability to properly assess it. Pen niskal, right? We might trip up. V'nosif al hamida la'ashma ba, right? We might add on to what should be done, right? La'ashma ba, which will then be our own sin, our own iniquity. Therefore, the Torah writes what you should know, in order for you to know and understand just how severe this is. However, the payment the Torah is giving, the consequence that the Torah is mandating is a monetary payment consequence.
So almost we're getting a substitution for what should be.
Correct.
Like a tachat
Correct.
on our nefesh.
Correct. Yeah. Correct. That's exactly right. Look, if I kill someone, right, inadvertently, right, so I have to go through, right, whatever needs, your mikla, whatever it might be. Now, the Vilna Gaon has an incredible perception that he sees in things that, right, that others don't. So take a look at the very bottom of the page there. Ayin tachat ayin. Very bottom there. Ayin tachat ayin. Ayin, eye, tachat, under, ayin, in place. So he says, let's look at the letters that are tachat, the letters of ayin. Ayin, I is spelled ayin, yud, nun. Which letter is under the ayin? What comes after ayin in the alphabet? Hey. What comes after the yud? Chaf. What comes under the nun? Samach. Right? Pechest is not a word, but those letters spell kesef. Money. So the letters So it's actually saying, if you poke out someone's eye, what will happen to you? That which is tachat, literally underneath the letters of Ayin Yud Nun. What are the letters under Ayin Yud Nun spell? Kesef. So there, it's actually kesef that is hinted to in the Torah itself. So besides the context, and besides the meaning elsewhere, and besides the logic, right, contained in there is the hint towards this kesef. Yes, Leah.
No, I wonder why stay under I, not over. It's further down the alphabet.
Aleph, Bet, Gimel, Dalet, Hey, Vav.
From,
Aleph, work our way down. Right? It's after.
I would think
It's after. It's not before.
no, it's after.
Right. Yeah.
Because it's worth more than I.
I'm sorry?
The
Gematria.
numerical worth of pay is more than I.
That's true.
So I would think it's supposed to be over because it's under.
No, we're not going mathematically here. We're just going in the order of the Aleph Bet. We start with Aleph, we end with Taf, right? And therefore, anything would be after beneath it.
You know, it's funny.
Yes, David.
Rabbi, in American civil law, there's a concept that no self-help. If you want to enforce a judgment, you have to go to court and get an order to get somebody's bank account. You can't just go to the bank and take their account.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so if the rabbis determine the value and order monetary damages, how do you enforce that?
The Beit Din, the Jewish court will go, and if the person doesn't pay, they will seize property of his and put it up for auction, and the proceeds will go to pay what he owes.
But in the United States, you can't do that. The Constitution says you can't have Sharia law in place of American civil law.
1 second. Even in American law, right? If I'm having a court case with Lev, so what we need to do is we need to go to a Beit Din. Now the Beit Din is not going to waste their time on us unless we sign papers, which is arbitration, that we have agreed under no duress to bring our case to this court of Jewish law, and we agreed to stand by it. And then I believe legally by California law, we have to adhere, even though they rule in favor of Lev, of course, I have to adhere. I can't say, I don't know, who are these guys? Right? I signed the papers already. So there is arbitration that a person signs, even according to American law, to the best of my understanding, and that then is legally binding on that person to follow the ruling.
It's legally binding, but you still have to go to civil court to show that he breached his promise.
Correct.
And what
Yeah.
if he doesn't have any money or any property? How is he?
So he owes the money.
If he doesn't have the.
So what do we do?
He might sell himself to be a slave.
Is there a physical punishment?
We're not going to beat the guy up. That's not going to accomplish anything.
Slavery?
Huh? We could garnish his wages, anything in the future. We could put a freeze on his account, wait till he turns 65 and start taking his Social Security. I don't know.
Yeah.
Right? If he doesn't have, he doesn't have. Right? Right? So then, yeah. Yes, Jay.
Okay. You know, in the movie 2001, the name of the computer is HAL. So they took one letter above IBM. They went the other direction.
No.
That's how they got the name of the computer.
HAL.
They,
IBM. Interesting.
HAL. Yeah,
Okay.
I never knew that.
Maybe they got that from the Vilna Gaon's Kesef.
They did
Who knows?
the
Yes,
opposite
Steve.
of the Vilna
So
Gaon.
we're trying to explain nefesh tachat nefesh, right?
No. Ayin Tachas Ayin.
Okay, ayin tachat ayin. Okay, but if we look here, if you look at your source, the source you gave, Vayikra 24, 17 through 20, and if you look at, I guess it's 18, Umakin nefesh behema, yishal mena, nefesh tachat nefesh. There it seems to explicitly say that nefesh tachat nefesh is interpreted as yishal mena, he shall pay. So that seems to be the that gives you license to interpret X tachat X
As-
as Nishalmena.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
have a question.
yeah.
I have a question.
Good. More license.
That's right.
I'll take it.
All
Yes.
these nuances are in oral law. How
I'm
come-
sorry?
Okay, all these small nuances, how am I pronouncing?
Yeah, yeah,
Nuances,
perfectly.
nuances, were in oral law. Who could keep in, whose memory can keep
Okay,
all this?
that's-
Why didn't they put it in writing before?
So that's why Rabbi Schwab says
That's
when
why there's a
Mashiach
mission.
comes, kids are going to go to the museum
And look at
and
the
they're going to
Mishnah.
see a Gemara there. And they're going to say, oh, isn't that funny? Before the Messiah came, the oral law was written in a book. They're all going to start to giggle. It's oral law. Why is it written down in a book? Right? And the oral law was meant to be passed on orally. And when it was in danger because of persecution and exile, when it was in danger of being forgotten, that is when Rabbi Yehuda Nasi, the year minus 100, right? That he gathered all the Mishnayot, and that is the Talmud that the Gemara, the Talmud, is the writing down of all of this oral law, which then becomes sifted further, and we have the Shulchan Aruch, the Code of Jewish Law, right, which is drawing from all of that in terms of what we're supposed to do. But you're right, it became too much to be memorized, and therefore we have our bookcases filled with oral law, which is a bit of a self-contradiction, right? Like I said, it'll all go into the museum when the time comes, hopefully speedily in our days. Yes, Dove.
Okay, the case of the guy who got the eye out, the slave, he is not getting money, he's getting freedom. So I would say.
That's an Evet, okay, that's an Evet Kanani.
That freedom is more valuable than money.
Okay, Dove.
If you don't have
Freedom it is. Huh? Did I leave out something? Oh, thank you very much. One thing that we left out, another logical thing. Thank you. Bamidbar 35:31. The Torah says, Lo tichlu kofar. Don't accept ransom, a monetary payment, for the life of a murderer who is guilty of a capital crime. Rather, he'll be put to death. Next pasuk. Lo tichlu kofar. Don't take ransom. Lanus al imlakato, in lieu of having to flee to the city of refuge when a person killed someone inadvertently, right? Lashuv l'sheva aretz hamota kohen, right? Right, to allow him to live there before the death of the kohen. So the pasuk says, don't take a monetary payment for death. Now, if there was no monetary payment for damages, would I need the Torah to tell me don't take a monetary payment for death? If for damages we don't accept a monetary payment, but it's got to be an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth. If for damages we don't take monetary payment, why would the Torah tell us for a capital case, no monetary payment? Of course not. Even for damages, I don't take monetary payment. But what's the Torah telling us? Everything short of death is monetary payment. I might have thought then I can give kofar. I could pay the value of that person. I could pay my own value, right? Right. What does the family gain by putting me to death? Let me pay, right? So being that everything short of a loss of life, there is monetary payment. That's why the Torah needs to tell you, but in the case of a death, be it intentional, capital punishment, be it manslaughter, accidental, right, but with certain degree of culpability, they're a city of refuge. For that, we don't take a ransom payment. Clearly, short of that, the Torah is mandating a monetary payment. So when it said ayin tachat ayin, the Torah clearly all along meant monetary. Thank you, Kathy. Point that out.
But it's very difficult, as Faye was saying, to put values on some of these things. I mean, how do you value?
You're right.
sight?
You're right.
And so
You're
how
right.
do they didn't even do that?
Yeah. So the Gemara works through that. How do you value that?
Yeah.
Right? The Gemara says, right? The only way is if this person is being sold as a slave. What is the change in value? Now, the change of his ability to earn, right? That's already taken care of in Shevet. Doctor, right? Yeah, right. We do our best to put a value on it. We can't do anything more than our best.
So last week we talked about evil, and it said that when you've done an evil act, it only what's recorded is evil act, not what you did good that day. Remember, there was a section last week we talked about that when someone commits an evil act, that's recorded, but the good that they did that day isn't as important.
Oh.
So then, if you take
No.
I interpreted it that way.
No. What we said was that if a person got angry,
Right.
that eclipses
Right. So
any other bad things that they've done. Not eclipses any good things they've done.
I interpreted it that was written, that the bad was written and the rest was ignored. That's what
The other bad things. It's all included under that umbrella of anger, but not that it cancels out any good that we've done.
So then,
Heaven forbid.
These acts, how would they be recorded then?
We're all a big mixture, my friend, of a lot of good and a lot of bad, and as I always say, the best eitzah, the best advice is that when it comes to those around us, focus on the good. And that way, in the heavens, when they look at us, they'll reflect that and they'll focus on our good. We set the stage for our own judgment. The way we view and judge others is the way that we will be viewed and judged. So have a good, generous, loving, forgiving eye, and hopefully the heavens will treat us in like fashion. That's all we can hope for.
Rabbi, I have a question. Can you hear me?
Just 1 second, I do. I just don't see you. Who am I talking to?
This is Boaz.
Boaz.
Hi, Boaz.
Boaz. Good to have you. Yes, Boaz.
What if the victim isn't dead but isn't really fully alive, like in a coma for 10 years? How can you? They're not living. It's not like I can't make money. I can't even live.
Yeah. So in that case, the damages would be very, very high, but it's not considered death. It's not a capital case. It's not a capital case, and the damages, right? And the damages will be exorbitant, right? Keep in mind something I just want to add on. Thank you, boss, for bringing that up. All of this is. There are two things going on over here. There is the monetary payment that I need to give, right? There's also the pain that I've caused, the avera that I've done, right? So there is what the Beit Din can enforce. There's also the bein adam l'chaveiro, between a person and a friend, that a person needs to do and make amends and do whatever they can do to beg for forgiveness, right? We also need mechila. We also need forgiveness, right? So what the Beit Din can obligate me to do is make these payments, right? But that doesn't take away the fact that I've caused tremendous pain to the person, or in Boaz's case, to the person and the family, right? With tremendous ripple effects. And a person needs to do the best to do teshuvah for that. And in that case, Boaz, as you illustrated, the monetary payment will be exorbitant. But it's not a capital case. If the person is alive, it's not a capital case.
That would be under the...
Lev.
But still, what Steve raised this sentence, nefesh tachat nefesh. Here it's not clear what one nefesh replace with the other.
Yes. So by the animal, it says yishalmena. It says you will pay nefesh tachat nefesh. So there it's clear that it's payment. By the person, by the pregnant woman, there it said v'natata nefesh tachat nefesh. And once again, there it didn't say yishalmena.
But the yishalmena shows you how to interpret the nefesh tachat nefesh.
Or I can say, it means a soul for a soul. Or I could say, when it says yishalmena, that's how it's meant to be interpreted. When it doesn't say that, maybe I could say that in fact shows me that it's not payment. And that's the opinion who says I meant to kill A and I killed B. capital punishment for that. We can see the room, how both of them can go on that. Yes, Jan?
Right.
What's the replacement here?
For an animal?
I think what Boaz is referencing just would be just for Pasuk 18, at the very beginning, and that is covered by the idleness. But then the idleness would be permanent, and it wouldn't be the cure.
Yeah.
So.
So it would be whatever it is.
Because it says does not die, but has to take to bed. So this would be a permanent taking to bed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, my friends, we'll call it over here, everybody.
Isn't it nice?
Thank you very much.
And a special thank you on the way out. Please give a thanks to Rachel and to Rivka, because with Vivian away, they're the ones who prepared the wonderful lunch for us. And thank you, Leah, for sponsoring, and thank you to Cher Bransky also for sponsoring.